If you want to stop choking your chicken, this message is for you. Thank you, brother, for coming to me publicly. So many men come to me privately. So many men are struggling with this right here. Our generation has more access to this kind of filth than any other generation. And I will tell you how I overcame it. One day, the last time, a couple years ago, I fell back into that temptation. And God asked me a question. Who do you love more? Me or that pornography? Me or your lust? Me or that temporary satisfaction? Then I started getting pictures seared into my brain from a deep study I did before on the crucifixion. See, Hebrews 6 says if you know the truth and you deliberately go on sinning, you have crucified Christ again. And I cried out, oh Lord, no, I love you more. I love you more than this temporary satisfaction, for your joy is everlasting from glory to glory. If you have never done a deep study on the crucifixion, I recommend it to you. And I know some of you probably won't go do it, so I'll give it to you right here. At the whipping post, when they beat him with the cat of nine tails, that's metal beads tied into the leather. They tore up his back so bad you couldn't even see any more flesh. It was all like raw hamburger meat and exposed bone. Then they put that robe on him. Then they twisted that crown of thorns onto his head and beat it in with the scepter. They spit on him, punched him, pulled out pieces of his beard and flesh where you can see exposed bone on his face. No movie has ever done it justice. Then they ripped that robe off of him, reopening up all the wounds gushing out of his back. Then he had to march 300 yards to Mount Golgotha with that wooden beam on his back, the splinters going into his raw flesh the whole time. And they offered him a pain reliever before the cross, but he refused it. He wanted to feel everything for me and you. See, when he was going through that, he had the ability, because he is outside of space and time, to think of every single one of us as individuals. Then when he got up on that cross, he had to struggle to breathe. He couldn't just take a breath. He had to lift his body up through all that pain. Remember, his back was exposed. There was no flesh on it anymore. The splinters just grinding and digging into his back just to get a breath. And while he was up there, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they do." But once you know the truth, you know what you're doing. Every time you give in to your lust, you are doing that to Christ again. And I just love him too much to ever do that again. Then he said it was finished, and he died of a broken heart. That's what doctors say, when the blood and the water comes out, that means the heart broke. We broke his heart. But he loved us, and he endured it. He endured it for us. So the next time you feel like giving in to temptation, ask yourself, who do you love more? And if that still doesn't work, pray that God gives you a hernia every time you choke your chicken. Some people will say that's extreme, but some people need the extreme. And get an accountability partner. I have people that call me up when they're going through temptation, and I stick it right there with them, and I pray them through it until that temptation is gone. Temptations don't last forever, but the joy of the Lord does.